Today's video is mainly about upgrading, and I'm going to give you guys some tips on what to look for and whether or not you need to upgrade your PCs. Do you really need to upgrade your gaming PC? Whilst I'd love to sit here and just give you a yes or no answer, it ain't that easy. And it never is that easy. It completely depends what games you play, what PC specs you're running, what kind of things you're expecting, and if you do anything else outside of gaming. Where does it make most sense for me to spend the budget I have to upgrade my gaming PC? The first component that I'm going to talk about is one that comes up in conversation a lot, and that's RAM. RAM is the easiest thing to upgrade, but if you don't need the additional RAM, 9 times out of 10, putting more RAM in or getting slightly faster RAM is not going to do that much for your performance. If you do need the RAM, or you've got very slow RAM, a RAM upgrade could make a lot of sense, and it's a relatively cheap upgrade compared to a lot of other things that you could upgrade. You need to look at your RAM utilization when you're doing the tasks on your PC that you do most often, or the ones that you think are most demanding. If, like me, you have to spend time sitting at a computer video editing, load up whatever video editing software you use, edit some videos, and just keep an eye in Task Manager. You don't need out fancy. Have a look what your RAM utilization is. If your RAM utilization is seeing 80–90% usage, maybe putting another stick of RAM or another 2 sticks of RAM in could be beneficial, and that could be a really good upgrade. Giving your computer just a little bit of headroom with the RAM might take a little bit of the strain off the CPU, it might make it run a little bit more quicker, and it might just mean that your Premiere Pro or your Final Cut or your DaVinci is a lot smoother, which can be great. If you need it, if you're running games with loads of mods on it, that can absolutely eat RAM. If you're still on DDR4, like I am, and you've got 2666 mega transfers per second memory, you could probably do with faster RAM, and that faster RAM might net you more performance. Or it might mean that you can have more mods, or your mods run better in games that you're playing. It might mean that your video editing software is a little bit smoother. You don't need much know-how, really. Is your RAM utilization really high? Is the speed of your RAM really low? If it's yes to either of them, maybe upgrading's a good idea. And for the sake of 50–60 quid that you get a decent RAM kit for, it might be worth doing. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is storage. I know this is an obvious one, and I know people on the whole don't get that excited by storage. If your storage is nearly full, or your storage is particularly slow, if you're still booting up from a hard drive, upgrade your storage. It'll be the best upgrade you ever do for your PC. You will go from a laggy, slow to load PC to something that is snappy and responsive. Even if your PC is so old that it does not have M.2 slots on it, upgrade to a SATA SSD. Just from a hard drive to a SATA SSD, the load times are insanely quicker. Another thing to think about with storage is if your storage is nearly maxed out, if it is getting towards that limit, it can affect the performance of the drive. So maybe getting an extra terabyte of SSD, 2 terabytes of SSD can make a big difference to the performance of your PC. And it's one that's relatively cheap at the minute. I keep seeing SSDs on sale all over the internet, on Scan and eBuyer, Amazon. The only thing that I don't really recommend is going from a Gen 3 to a Gen 4 SSD. Do not upgrade a Gen 3 SSD to a Gen 4 SSD just for loading times in games. It will make very little difference. The difference in loading times between SSDs that are Gen 3 and Gen 4, it's absolutely minute. If you need to upgrade anyway, and you need to upgrade the capacity, and you have the money for a Gen 4 and your motherboard supports it, sure, go for it. Makes a lot of sense. It's newer technology and it is still faster. The next one is one that doesn't get spoken about enough when it comes to upgrading a PC, and that's the monitor. I've spoken before about how you should pair your GPU with your monitor and things like that. If you've got an underwhelming monitor, but you've got a good PC, upgrading your monitor can be a fantastic upgrade. It can make night and day difference. When I first started, I had a 1080p screen that was 60 Hz and a VA panel the same as this is. It didn't look that smooth. I upgraded to the Samsung G5, 144 Hz, 1440p monitor, and the difference was insane. Going from 1080p to 1440p. Visual fidelity wise, the jump's not huge, but it's noticeable. But going from 60 to 144 was amazing. it absolutely buttery smooth. If you've got a 60 hertz monitor and you've got a decent enough PC that can push 120 or 144 frames, in games that can utilize it, like your esports titles or Rocket League, or with the new 5000 series GPUs coming with all this AI tech that can push 200 frames a second with fake frames on Cyberpunk, upgrading from a 60 hertz monitor to 144 hertz or a 1080p to a 1440p could be a really good upgrade. There are other things to consider as well. Some people like to have big, wide, ultra wide monitors that are huge and things like that. But please remember, if you're going to go up in resolution, you need to make sure your graphics card can handle it. Another one that isn't spoken about enough, along with monitors, your case can determine how quiet your PC runs. If you have a PC with a very enclosed case, you can hear the fans ramp up because it's starved of oxygen. It's trying its hardest just to pull air in from everywhere to try and cool them components. And this can be really irritating and it can ruin your experience. You sat there and even with your headphones on and you're gaming away, and all you can hear is the fan noise next to you. Not only that, but your poor teammates that you're on mic to, and all they can hear is your computer. Swap your case out. Get something with a mesh front, or get a nice fish tank case, or just something that's going to give you enough airflow to cool your components without them having to ramp up and be noisy as hell. If your PC is loud as hell, get a new case. Have some big ass 140s on the front that are barely spinning, but they're still pulling plenty of air in. You put them on low RPM, they bring in enough air, straight into your graphics card, straight into your cooler, everything's good. You get to run everything at lower RPM and have a quiet operation. Not to forget as well, when you upgrade a case, you get in more airflow. If your case needs airflow, if it's for aesthetics, ignore this bit, but if you've got a restrictive case, and you upgrade your case and you get something with a lot more airflow, your components are going to run cooler. So things like your CPU and your GPU are going to run at higher boost clocks because they're running cooler. So you're actually getting more performance from getting yourself a case that isn't choking your components. I upgraded my case about a year and a half, 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago. Did I need to? No, not even a little bit. I went from a Lian Li Lancool 2 to a Lancool 3. A borderline pointless upgrade for the hardware that I've got, and I upgraded purely for aesthetics, and that is absolutely fine. If you want your PC to look better and you've seen a case you like and you're happy with the performance that you're getting and everything else, upgrade your case. Why not? Better airflow, better aesthetics, especially if you've got something that you're proud of and you've put a lot of work into. Now this is where we start getting into big guns. Your CPU. Do you need to upgrade your CPU? Firstly, I would look at upgrading your CPU on the platform you're on to see if it's worth it. For example, if you're on a 5500, can you go to CEX and get yourself a 5800X3D? You haven't got to change your motherboard, you haven't got to change your RAM, but are you still getting a big enough increase in performance that you're going to be fine? 5800X3D is still a phenomenal CPU, especially for gaming. If that doesn't net the performance that you want, then you're gonna have to look at swapping platforms. But how do you know? How do you know that you need to upgrade your CPU? The easiest way is to look at the utilization, same as with the RAM. If you're in games and your CPU is pegged at 100% and your graphics card is hovering around 40, 50, 60%, maybe upgrading the CPU is a really good idea because you have a bottleneck there. Upgrading your CPU, lowering the utilization of your CPU and increasing the utilization of the GPU could be a great thing and could net you some massive performance. There is a caveat here though, where utilization of your CPU isn't at 100%, but your graphics card is, your sound. Don't bother upgrading your CPU. Test it on a few games, don't just do one, but the games that you like to play, the kind of games you like to play, load them up, have a play around, check on your utilization, use hardware monitor or H64 info, or even just task manager. Just have it up next to you or tab across, have a look, see what the lines are looking like, and that's all you've got to do. Check your utilization when you're doing what you like to do on your PC, and if you have a bottleneck there, consider upgrading. If you can do it on the same platform and it makes sense for the graphics card you've got, great. Even if you don't get something that eliminates your bottleneck, if you can lessen it, if you don't have the money to upgrade to like the fastest chip and stuff like that, and you're on something that's a little bit older, you can get something that's a little bit newer. Generational gains are usually quite incremental, but if you're skipping a couple of generations, you're still going to see a massive increase in performance, especially if you've already got a bottleneck there. If you're playing a game that is ridiculously CPU heavy and isn't very GPU heavy, you could see GPU and CPU utilization without there being an actual bottleneck. So test it on a few different games. If I was going to give anyone advice, it's going to come down to budget. Get what you can afford. If you can keep with the same motherboard, sound. If you need to upgrade to a new platform, it's just one of those things. You got to bite the bullet and upgrade to a new platform. Unfortunately, if you go into something recent, DDR5 is kind of where you're at, so you're gonna have to replace your RAM as well. So we've talked about the CPU, and now we're gonna go on to the GPU. How do you know that you need to upgrade your GPU? Is it playing games? Is it playing games at the resolution that you want to play at? Is it playing games as smoothly as you want them to run? Is it playing games at the graphic settings that you want to see? If any of these answers are no, maybe upgrading your GPU is a good idea. You're going to get into some weird territory here where you need to make sure that your graphics card and your CPU are going to work together well, that you're not going to end up bottlenecking your system. Most people have a budget. If at the minute your CPU isn't bottlenecked and you want to run games at higher fidelity, higher resolution, higher settings, whatever it is, do it. Upgrade your GPU. If it causes a bottleneck, save up a little bit more money, upgrade the CPU further down the line. If you're happy with the gaming performance that you're getting, if you're getting smooth gameplay, the settings that you're playing at are absolutely fine for you and you're having a great old time, don't bother. Save your money, wait, or put the upgrade somewhere else. Put it on something that a lot of people wouldn't bother upgrading because they don't think it makes a difference. Get a sturdier desk, get a better chair, get a better mouse, get a better keyboard, better monitors. There's so many ways to upgrade a gaming PC that can affect your experience, and that's the best thing about gaming PCs, and that's the best thing about PC gaming. You can upgrade what makes sense for you. If your game's running everything that you need, you're an esports player playing at 1080p, getting 300 frames a second on CSGO or whatever, but the one thing that's irritating you about your system is the sound of your keyboard, upgrade your keyboard. If your PC is making loads of noise and it's doing your head in, upgrade your case. Get something with more airflow so your fans don't have to go chock all the time just to be able to keep it cool enough to play the games that you want to play. You've got so many options with gaming PCs, and honestly, that's the best thing. I will say one thing, and that is work towards the budget that you've got. So if you're running an older system and your PC isn't playing the games like you want it to, or it's slowed down so much, fair one, upgrade smart. You've got £500 burning a hole in your back pocket. If you've got a 3060 and a 3600, you can spend that £500 and get a new CPU, a new cooler, new storage, new case. You can get all of that under £500 easy. Or say you want to game at 4K, you've been gaming at 1080p, decided you want to game at 4K. Take all that, go and get yourself a second-hand 3080 from CEX. Like, it's not perfect, but 2-year warranty, a 4K capable card. It's a big uplift from a 3060 or a 2070, and your CPU matters a lot less at 4K than it does at 1080p. There's lots and lots and lots of different combinations, and again, that's one of the best things about PC gaming. You can upgrade so many things. My future upgrade plans: 9900X or 9950X, decent motherboard that's got at least 2.5 gig LAN and has at least 3 M.2 slots, 32 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM, and a 360mm all-in-one liquid cooler, or the NHD15. One of them two. I'll be honest, probably going to go for the liquid cooler. As much as that can cause its own problems, I prefer the look of them. But what I will say, after being rattling on, if you enjoyed this video, please consider watching this video, or this video will have PC gaming, what I wish I'd known. Hopefully it will help some of you dodge some of the mistakes that I made when getting into PC gaming, so that you get the best setup you possibly can. And on this side, we will have the build video I've done recently with my partner, which was a lot of fun. We rebuilt my gaming PC after I cleaned it, and she did fantastic. I taught her how to build a PC. We had a lot of fun filming it, and I hope you guys like it. I shall see you on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.